Well, happy Wednesday to everybody. And wanted to do a quick live stream on this Kenmore that's going to be going back to the owner today. The owner's name is Carmen Bugaj. I think I'm saying the last name correctly, out of Pestigo, Wisconsin. And this happens to be a model 1231, a 1231. The full number for this machine is actually 158.12312 because Kenmore loves numbers. They just do. They love doing lots and lots and lots of numbers. And you'll see that when you look at some of the models, especially like this one from the 1970s. And this is a straight zigzag machine. We're going to be doing a variety of different sew-offs on it, kind of just having a little bit of fun dancing down it. Came to the workshop with a lot of challenges. Feed issues, tension issues, motor issues, and the issues went on, and was able to overcome all of those things. And now the machine is happy again. Happy. And you can see straight away, we've got one of our Japanese workshop friends with us because this happens to be a machine that was made in Japan. It was made in Japan and also assembled in Thailand. So a variety of different hands came into play for this particular machine. Again, right around 1953, 1952, Kenmore moved from making its machines in the US to making them in Japan. A lot of sewing machine makers did that because it was a lot more cost effective to move manufacturing over to that part of the world. The wages were less, the manufacturing costs were less. Kenmore followed suit with that, trying to maintain its growth and stability by changing its manufacturing location. So this machine had some parts coming in from the US to Japan, and then they also had assembly done on this as well in Thailand. And interestingly, at the end of this little live stream talking about Carmen's machine, I'm also going to be showing you a machine that also has roots in Malaysia or the Thailand area. And that's a machine I tried to introduce to you before, but it still had some challenges going on with it, including the drive that was powering the machine. I should say my fake drive setup on this machine. This huge commercial Eagle machine that was also made in that neck of the woods around Malaysia and the Thailand area. And obviously a stark contrast between this Eagle industrial machine and this Kenmore model that was made in Japan. But you know what? They were made in the same region of the world. So I thought it'd be fun to revisit this machine after I came up with another dry belt. If you caught a clip of the last one, oh my gosh, what a fiasco. I went through 3 dry belts that broke in trying to demonstrate this machine. And then there were some hook clearance issues as well. Oh my gosh, it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. I didn't even want to think about it again. But I think we've got a drive system that should work on this now. We're going to buzz down some sew-offs, and then Cindy is going to drive in from Iron Mountain, Michigan to pick this machine up in the next couple of days. So we'll look at this machine after we look at this other one on the other workbench. If it gives you an idea of how busy things get in here, there's always activity on both workbenches going on. There's always activity. And I'll have machines kind of, let me get some other lights on. Nasty fruit flies are still around. All right, go right about there, I think. So I've always got machines kind of coming on, going off, and the activity just never stops. I mean, it seems like 24/7. So right now we're going to focus on Carmen's machine from the 1970s, and you can certainly look up Kenmore's to try to date the machines either by, yeah, I almost knocked you over. Sorry about that. Either by model number, and the model number is typically going to be on the rear of the machine, right on a little nomenclature plate right there. You can kind of see it right there. And that will give you the place of manufacturing. It'll give you the size of the motor. It'll give you other information about the machine. The interesting thing is on this nomenclature plate, it shows it as a 1 amp motor that was made in Thailand. But when you dig into this machine like I do, you get down to that actual motor, and you can see that in the Facebook still shots. This motor was actually made in Japan, and it's rated at 0.95. Now, I'm not going to split hairs, 0.95 versus 1 amp. But the point I'm making is the information on the outside of the machine is not always indicative of what you find if you dig into your machine and actually look at the specs on the motor and other specifics about the machine. So in reality, this is going to be powered by a Japanese 0.95 amp motor, not by a Taiwanese, if I'm saying that correctly, 1 amp motor. And most people would never know that because they're not going to tear the machine apart like I do. This is also going to be a free arm. We're not going to be using the free arm function today, but by just taking off this little L-shaped bed extension, you can access that free arm nicely. It doesn't have a real small free arm, so if you get into smaller child's cuffs and other things like that, you're going to be hard pressed to use this machine for that function. That's where you'll want to move into maybe a Husqvarna that has a much smaller, much narrower free arm. And the free arm, that's something to look at when you're looking at choosing a machine, and free arm is going to be real essential to what you're doing. Let me get a couple other lights on. It's going to become a really essential factor on the circumference of that free arm. So take that into account when you're choosing machines that require free arm functions. So the setup on this machine is pretty basic. The setup is going to be some of this good old Coates & Clark dual duty XP thread. It's going to be probably right around a 40 weight thread. We've got a Schmetz universal size 9014 needle in there. One of my favorite needles. You probably know that. And also my good friend, Alex Askarov. When I mailed him, if you saw his Facebook post many, many months ago, I sent him a really cool dapper cap, like you've seen me wear before. One like this, which I'm guessing as the temperatures start to in England, he's probably going to be popping that hat on pretty soon. But I also sent him a bunch of 9014 Schmetz needles because that's one of his favorites as well. And so that's the needle I chose for this setup today. The flat side of the needle on a Kenmore like this, because if you do take, I've got to see if I can set the camera down real quick. You do take this little free arm extension off, you're going to see that the bobbin is placed in the front of the machine. That's the position of the rotary hook system. So that's going to tell you right away when the rotary hook system is mounted on the front of the machine, the flat side of that needle is going to go to the rear. And then this machine is going to be threaded from front to back because of the position of the needle. Now, when you're setting up the bobbin in the bobbin case, make sure that you have a counterclockwise turn. In other words, when you put the bobbin into the bobbin case and you draw that thread out, you're going to be able to look on the rear of that bobbin and see that it's turning counterclockwise. Japanese machines vary, and even the Kenmore class machines that were made in Japan vary as well. Some are going to turn counterclockwise, the majority of them, and then there are a few that turn clockwise. And it's really important you know that because that will create feed issues as far as the thread if you orientate that bobbin incorrectly in the bobbin case. And this is obviously also going to have, I said rotary. Apparently it's too early in the morning for me. This is not a rotary hook system. This is, in fact, an oscillating hook system. The difference being a rotary hook system is going to go in a full cycle like this as it's operating, as it's generating stitch output. An oscillating hook system is going to be like a pendulum, and it's going to be rocking back and forth to complete that hook system and to complete that sewing process. I might grab a Diet Coke right now just to keep myself going and to get myself going because I'm running a little bit on empty, I think, today. But The oscillating hook systems are really nice. I think I've mentioned this before because they are going to handle threads that are heavier much easier and also manage trickier threads a lot easier as well. You remember that recent machine that I showed you that had that 100% rayon thread, real tricky stuff to work with? Oscillating hook systems are going to be able to manage trickier threads and heavier threads much easier because they don't have to go through that full rotary hook process. They only have to rock back and forth to align themselves with the movement and the flow of the needle bar. So they're able to manage things much easier, much nicer. Yeah. So oscillating hook system, not rotary hook system. Again, a Kenmore from the 1970s. And if you look at my Facebook shots, you'll see that this machine, whether you consider it a Japanese machine, as I refer to it, or whether you look at that back nomenclature plate on the rear of the machine and you say, wait a second, it looks like it was made in Thailand. Whatever you believe, whatever you want to accept, because again, just like some of the American made machines, some of them would start in one place and they would be finished in another. A number of machines that came out of Scotland that were Singer based were started in Scotland. They were finished in Canada at St. John's. So, you know, the pilgrimage of a machine before it finally gets finished can be touched by a number of people on various parts of the world, even. So, this Taiwanese or Thailand Japanese machine uh, will be able to demonstrate, I think, the benefits of how it was engineered very, very nicely. Well-made machine, very, very well made. All right, I'm going to get something to drink real quick. I'll put on some Asian, Japanese, Thailand type music. Try to get that free arm level. And that's the only problem with a free arm is depending on the surface you have it on, I have it kind of on an AstroTurf. It's not completely even across. And sometimes you'll have a little bit of issues with that laying flat, won't you? All right, enough blah, blah, blah. Let me say hello to everybody. I'm going to grab a Diet Coke, and then we're going to jump into this, okay? So good morning to Sunny and Emma. And that looks like it in the live chat so far. We've got a lot of folks that have joined us this morning, but they're sitting in the shadows, aren't they? They're sitting in the shadows, and that's okay. Let's see. And I did replace Carmen's light with an LED light. And the only thing I don't like about the setup of the faceplate design on this particular model is if you want to open up the faceplate for whatever reason, let's say you want to change the bulb out, you're threaded through the faceplate and you can kind of throw that thread out of alignment a little bit. So just be aware that if you have this model and you open that faceplate, see how you're kind of stretching the string, the thread as it is? So just be aware of that. And make sure you get that thread lined back up again before you resume sewing. Otherwise, you'll run into some trouble. All right, some Japanese, Asian style music, and then let's move forward with this. All right, let's see what we have here. And this is under Asia, so I don't know if it's going to really be Asian music or not. Just, it is what it is, right? Yeah, yeah, it is. All right, I'll be right back. This is probably not listed as one of the primary breakfast foods, but you know what? Sometimes a soda just tastes good in the morning, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. All right, so let me give you guys some choices to start out your day. So the choices are, we've got some of this fake leather. I'll show you the different sew-off options. I'll turn down our semi-Asian music here. So we've got this naugahyde stuff that was really popular in covering furniture and used in all kinds of applications like that. It kind of looks like leather, but it's not, right? It's not leather. So I've got that. I've got 100% denim as an option for us to sew off on this Kenmore machine this morning. Saddle grade leather, 100% elk hide. I don't show you this very often, but I got some of this veg tan leather as well. Veg tan leather is a real fun leather to sometimes sew. I probably don't even need to do 2 layers to show you the backside because the nap on veg leather is so flat. And I know my friend Dusty out in Colorado sews on veg tan leather quite a bit. I've got this cork material. I've gotten into sewing cork. It's just a fun material to sew. And I've got a single layer of that and 2 layers. I just dropped some of the sew off options in the garbage. That's bad. I've got some of this compressed felt. And this is, again, going to be different than the stuff that you use when you were back in school. This is not a typical type of felt. And then I've got upholstery material, commercial upholstery material. And then I have this awning material that is really, really tough to get through, this acrylic fiber. So, and then, of course, you know, among all these other sew-offs that we can do, I've also got 100% cotton with a stiffener that basically from a fat quarter. So it's, you know, genuine cotton and all that good stuff. So what do you guys think? What should we launch with? We've got cotton. We've got just a huge array of sew-offs we can potentially do. So I'll let you kind of type in the chat what you want us to do. If you want to type like 1, 2, 3, first choice, second choice, third choice, then I can kind of set those up and we can kind of jump into this because my customer is going to be here in a little bit over an hour, right around 10 a.m. She's really anxious to get this machine back. She's got some projects pending when this machine went down. And she came by way of a referral of another customer that I had taken care of that came by way of Joanne Fabrics out in Marinette, Wisconsin. So trying to get this back to her as quick as possible so she can get back to this project. So what do you guys think? What do you think? Oh, brilliant. I didn't know. Sunny, see what I'm saying? We always learn from each other. Sunny said there are some gorgeous handbags that they make out of cork. I did not know that. I was just sewing on it because I picked it up at the Dollar Tree and I thought it was kind of fun to sew on. So you folks that are watching this now or watching it later, check out these bags that Sunny's talking about that they make gorgeous handbags apparently on a cork as well. Makes sense, doesn't it? It's got a nice natural look to it. It's yeah, why not? Oh, hello to Kevin and Doreen as well out of the great state of Iowa. So let's do that. Let's grab some cork. I've got a single layer. I've got 2 layers. And then we've got the naugahyde as well. Now, Emma's the one that I think is the first one that came up. I was calling this stuff fake leather, and she came up with the actual term for it. Does anyone know when this was introduced back in the day? When did they start using naugahyde type material to recover chairs or to cover chairs in lieu of leather, a much more affordable option? If anyone wants to Google that real quick, kind of a quick little thumbnail sketch on naugahyde, that would be awesome because I don't know what the history of this stuff is. I know it's been around a long time, but that's about the extent of what I know about it. So, so we'll do naugahyde and we'll do cork first. and then we'll launch into some of these other sew-offs. Putting more Japanese music on. Yeah, this definitely feels Japanese, doesn't it? So I'm going to do this naugahyde. I'll go ahead and 2 layers of it. Not a real simple sew off. You can see it's fairly thick, probably about 2 millimeters or so. And I think we'll lay down a straight stitch and a zigzag on it. And I didn't test this already, so we might have to make some tension adjustments, right? We might have to make some tension adjustments. The other thing I'll show you real quick before I forget to do it, if you didn't know it, and you probably did know it because you're really smart, most every sewing machine, with the exception of some of the slantomatics, most every sewing machine is going to have some sort of a spring like this that creates pressure down on the presser foot. And over time, depending on the type of spring material that they use, there's all kinds of alloys that they can make these springs out of. Depending on the alloy that they use, that spring will get compressed because it's usually always going to be under pressure, right? It's going to be inside of the faceplate area, and there's going to be constant pressure pushing down on it. So it becomes compressed after a while and it doesn't recoil back. And that was one of the issues with Carmen's machine, is the particular alloy that they used to make the spring for this Kenmore was a material that didn't resist that compression factor. And so it had become shorter than it was originally. And stretching springs can be a little bit tricky. You've got to heat them up a little bit, either with a hair dryer or with a torch, and then slowly try to draw that length back out of them. What I typically do is I use a screwdriver like this after I've heated them up, and I'll go between the different coils at different points so I'm not stressing the same area over and over again. And then I just draw it up until I can see that I'm gaining more length on it. Go to another part of the spring, draw it up until you can get more length out of that spring again. Return that portion that's been taken away by it being compressed. And again, depending on the material, this is a fairly malleable material that this particular presser foot spring is made out of. So I'm able to extend it a lot easier. When you get into some of these other styles, I'll just show you real quick. This one in particular, which is used in some of the, excuse me, wow, I've got a big frog in my throat today. You get to springs like this that are used in some of the newer machines. It's very, very tricky to stretch this stuff, even if you heat it up. And so if it becomes compressed, you really are better off just replacing the spring, because this stuff is a lot more fragile. And as you try to stretch it, it tends to break. There's a piece of one of them that I broke right there trying to stretch it. So just a quick little tip: if you're having feed issues and you've already had a qualified person look at the feed dogs, and again, if you didn't know it, I'll show you one other thing real quick before we jump into this sew off. Feed dogs on, I'm going to drink some Diet Coke. Hold on. Feed dogs on nearly any machine can be adjusted. The adjustment is down below. There's a screw adjustment that allows you to raise or lower the feed dog clearance in relation to the plate that goes over them. You don't want to cause them to reach up too high, like I've seen some people trying to operate machines, because then what they're doing is they're hitting the bottom of this plate. You're not going to know that because the plate is obviously anchored down by a couple of screws, but you're causing issues with the mechanics when it's hitting the bottom. Also, if they're set too low, they're not going to be creating enough feed for that material, and then you can run into issues with that as well. If you know your feed dogs are coming up high enough in relation to moving material, then the other issue you want to look at right away is that spring factor that I tried to show you, because those two factors are going to be driving the success or failure of how that material is moving through. Like this naugahyde stuff that has a lot of vinyl in it, it's going to be a little bit slippery. It's going to be a little bit tricky to feed. And without the adjustments and the lengthening of that compressed spring that I did, the feed factor would be considerably less than it was when it came into the workshop. All right, blah, 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 blah. What do you guys think? Should we lay down a zigzag on this, or should we lay down a straight stitch, or should we lay down both? Straight stitch, zigzag, or both? Those are the options on this, apart from stretching stitches out on this machine. So we could lay down both, and that way, whether you said straight stitch or zigzag, I made both of you happy. How cool is that? Yeah. So, yeah. And Sunny and Emma are both saying both anyway. So, yeah, let's do that. A little bit more Japanese music. All right, so we'll lay down a zigzag first. I'll lay down kind of a mid-range zigzag. The stitch width, I'll show you real quick. The stitch width is controlled right here. Stitch width is controlled right here, so I'm right at about 2.5. This is a stretch one. We're not going to be using this function, but it basically will elongate the stitch. And then on stitch length, I'm right around 10. I'm going to bring it down to about 8. And this is obviously our reverse function right here. This is to turn our light on. I should have gone over this first. I'm kind of out of order, aren't I? Yeah, a little bit out of order. So light, reverse, stitch length, the stretch function where you can basically manipulate stitches and make them longer, elongate them, and then the stitch width. Well, very easy machine to operate. Very, very simple. I think so. All right, so let's lay down a zigzag on this, and then we'll lay down a straight stitch next to it. All right, here we go. Like I said, this stuff is very, very tricky to sew. Very slippery. It's like that Italian leather stuff. I haven't shown Italian leather for a while. All right, I'll lay down a straight stitch next to it. Yeah, that started to slip a little bit. Even that added pressure foot pressure return, got a little bit of slip at the beginning. I'll show that to you. Okay, let's do a straight stitch next to this. So you increase that pressure foot pressure even a little bit more. Before I had it maxed out before I stretched that spring. And if you're not familiar with these Japanese machines, they've got a beautiful quick release on this where if you're trying to get something super heavy underneath the presser foot, you just push this outer ring and that pops up. And then all the pressure is off of that presser foot. So right now we can literally grab it. You see down here, we can literally grab it and raise it manually up and down, where if we needed to fit something super tight underneath that presser foot, you know, something real thick like quilting or extra batting or who knows what, we can raise that well beyond the normal boundaries of what that presser foot will move. But as we're changing different material types, right now we get this super slippery naugahyde stuff. And especially as we're laying down a stitch that has needle swing, there's even a greater likelihood that that feed factor is going to be tested. So on a material like this, we don't want to go light. If we were in the cotton range or silks or satins, we probably would be right around here as far as the length down. We'd go pretty light on the presser foot pressure. Again, the lighter, the more fragile the material, the lighter pressure you want. But when we're going with heavier materials like leather and naugahyde, that's real slippery, we want to bolster that pressure up considerably. I'm almost to max right now. I might even go a little bit heavier on that so we can have a greater feed factor, greater stability of feed. So right now we've got quite a bit of pressure down. We're going to lay down a straight stitch now, see how we do with that. All right, let's lay down a straight stitch. Oh, and I should show you that, shouldn't I? How we set it up. So straight stitch, you got to move your stitch width all the way down to 0, basically that orange little dot there. And then we've got to decide, okay, what length of straight stitch do we want to do? Want to go for max 6 stitches per inch, 8 stitches per inch? Why don't we go right in the middle? We'll go for 7 stitches per inch. So now let's lay down a straight stitch on this super slippery naugahyde material and see how we do. I just bolstered up our presser foot pressure a little bit, so we should get some decent feed. You watch it as it moves across that presser foot and over those feed dogs. You'll sometimes, with a material like this, you'll see a little bit of hesitancy as it's going over those feed dogs because this stuff has such a, if you could feel it with your finger, it's just super, super slick. And so even with good feed dogs and adequate pressure, when you're going through 2 layers of this, it can create a little bit of a feed factor. So let's see how we do. All right, here we go. Again, I did not test this off camera before, so I'll be interested to see how the machine manages it. Beautiful top stitch. Actually had a very nice looking lock stitch as well. Very, very nice. And if you're sewing a material like this that has a high concentration of vinyl, and you're wanting to use a swing stitch like a zigzag, just be aware that you might have to make tension adjustments, because as you're increasing the space between that needle strike point on the material, you've got to increase the tension so that that bobbin is able to pull that down, especially the top stitch, and define that stitch. So making tension adjustments when you're looking at a swing stitch like a zigzag or an ornamental stitch or whatever it is, and you're laying down those stitches on a slippery vinyl-based material like this, just be aware tension adjustments oftentimes are a necessity to maintain stitch integrity. And I'm going to demonstrate that right now by doing a wider zigzag on this naugahyde as well, and just seeing what result we get, if there's anything wonky about it as far as the stitch balance. And if you're questioning the vinyl content of this stuff, look at this. See? And that's the thing you have to deal with when you're sewing with different materials, isn't it? When you're dealing with vinyl-based materials in particular, getting that material to lay flat and to feed straight. You can see I haven't done a stellar job in feeding it straight, because you can see the overlap here where it's shifted, and that's where maybe using some clips would be beneficial. But I just fly by the seat of my pants sometimes, especially when I have a customer arriving shortly. So we got to kind of keep this show going. All right, so we'll get a real wide zigzag now and see how this machine manages that. We're going to go max on stitch length. We're going to go max on stitch width as well. And we'll see how this Japanese, Taiwanese Kenmore does in managing a tricky sew-off like that at the max for stitch length and stitch width. All right, here we go. Oh, and another thing I should point out real quick, look at where my take-up arm is right now. Not a good place to launch. So I've got to rotate that so it goes to the highest position, and then we should get a good solid launch for this Kenmore machine. All right, let's give this a go. And again, we might find, especially on the lock stitch, we might find that that tension has to be bumped up because of how wide we're stretching that thread in executing a super wide zigzag stitch on a nylon-based material. All right, here we go. Now, I don't know what you can hear through the live stream, but this Kenmore, after it's been serviced in the workshop, is such a smooth, a silky smooth running machine. Very, very nice. Very, 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 very nice. So there's our super wide zigzag. But again, let's see what that lock stitch looks like on the backside, because that's the real test, isn't it? And it looks like all in all, I kind of sewed over my own thread there a little bit. There we go. I think I fixed it, sort of, kind of. All right. So that's our lock stitch on the back. You know what? That increase in presser foot pressure and elongating that spring, I could not have done this when the machine came into the workshop because the presser foot pressure was not adequate. Overall, we maintained good stitch integrity as far as the span of those and the peaks of those zigzag stitch pattern layouts. But if you look at it real close, there's just a slight variance that's going across. And that again is the product of the material we're sewing. But all in all, this again is our lock stitch on the back. The straight stitch we did, the smaller zigzag, the much larger zigzag we did. All in all, a very, very good outcome. Some real good page 34 stitching by this Japanese, Taiwanese, American made, I'm so confused, this machine that came from all over the place, did an excellent job. There's our top stitching right there. Some beautiful stitching. The larger zigzag that would be on your left, I believe, the straight stitch in the middle, and then finally the smaller zigzag on the far right. Some very, very good stitch quality, going through 2 layers of this naugahyde material. If you've never sewn on naugahyde before and you want to give it a try and you can't get access to this stuff, let me know. I'll mail you a free sample. It will really, really put your machine to the test as far as maintaining stitch integrity and stitch quality. But some beautiful stitching there. Kind of looking at my laptop now, it really displays those stitches beautifully, doesn't it? So Carmen's machine is sewing tip top, being able to manage a sew off like this. Lovely, lovely stitching. Yeah, very impressed. Very, very impressed. So yeah, if anyone ever, I know that there are people out there that have a bias to Japanese made Kenmores. Don't be that way. Part of the reason in doing live streams like this is to kind of change your thinking on what the greatness of machines is and how they can perform. And I think certainly so far, we should be fairly impressed with this Kenmore. All right. I don't see anybody else to greet in the live chat. I think what we were going to sew next is this cork material, right? So I've got a single layer of this cork material. Again, I bought this in like a 9x12 sheet at the Dollar Tree, which is really the $1.25 tree now. I bought this at the Dollar Tree. I just wanted to try it out. So we'll do a single layer of this. We'll lay down a zigzag on it, and then we'll do 2 layers of this cork material, and we'll lay down maybe a straight stitch on that through the thicker stuff. Or maybe we'll lay down a zigzag on that as well. Or maybe we'll lay down both on these. Yeah, just to have fun. But I'm going to make this zigzag a little bit more narrow because of how wide this cork material is. That'd be a little bit clearer if I get closer. Let's see. See, that's a product of that LED light, isn't it? See, if I shut the LED light off on the machine, then all of a sudden the picture cleans up nicely, doesn't it? The video all of a sudden doesn't have that wavering stuff on it. But unfortunately, this machine has to have the light on in order to power it up. So I'll try to back the camera up a little bit. Maybe that'll help. Back it up a little bit more. Now we're doing like long distance sewing here, but at least we got rid of that obnoxious wavering on the screen, didn't we? So off camera, what I'm doing is I'm gonna narrow down that zigzag to about 2, and I'm gonna narrow down our length to about 10, and we'll lay down a zigzag down this cork material. All right, here we go. And again, give a listen to this machine. It really is a beautifully running machine. And that's a product as well of the engineering. It was built well still in the 1970s when this machine rolled out. All right, here we go. What did I do? Not getting any feed. Gotta look at my settings here. Hold on a second. Oh, it could be that I've got that paper on the backside too, and the feed dogs can't grip it. That might well be. See, I didn't take this. This is funny. Jiminy crickets. I've got the thread between the clippers now. There we go. I got it out. I've got this slippery, because this is like a sticky back on these things. I've got this slippery uh, plastic material on the back. I might have to take that off to feed this through. It's not going to feed otherwise. It's too slippery, even for these feed dogs. So let's peel that off. And I'll sew the sticky side up so that it doesn't get on the feed dogs. See that? It's like a self-adhesive, isn't it? So you can tack this stuff down to something if you want. So now I've got a real sticky side up. Then it's going to stick to the bottom of the presser foot. I'm almost in kind of a pickle, aren't I? Tell you what, I'm going to skip the single layer. Let's just jump right to the double layer. This is a double layer of the same cork material. It should feed a lot better because we have a non-slippery base on it. So we'll lay down a zigzag on this. I got to watch my time too. Got to watch my time, don't I? All right, let's try this again. Take 2 or 3 or whatever that was. All right, give this a try again. Here we go. Oh, that's fun. Look at that. Look at that. Let's lay down a straight stitch next to it. And you got to kind of watch for those little fragments of cork material, don't you? Because it kind of fragments a little bit as it feeds through there. Well, that was interesting though, wasn't it? With that paper back on the back of this other piece of cork, we couldn't get any traction even with these robust feed dogs and adequate presser foot pressure. Just shows you how feed is such a factor when sewing, isn't it? It's such a factor. All right, let's lay down a straight stitch next to this one. And we'll consider our cork sew off done. So all I'm going to do again is just move this back to 0. We'll go up to right around a 7 again. Yeah, right around in there, I think. And let's do a straight stitch now down this cork material. Again, 2 layers of cork is probably going to be about 3, almost 3 millimeters thick. Almost 3 millimeters thick. All right, here we go. Beautiful, beautiful feed when you don't have a slippery paper background on it. Oh yeah, beautiful, beautiful stitching. Lovely stitching. I'll show this to you close up. So if you've never tried sewing cork before, Sunny had shared that they're making bags out of cork now. Apparently they've been doing it for a while. And you can get some lovely, lovely outcomes with cork. And it's such a beautiful material too, isn't it? So this is our top stitch right here. See if I can show this to you. That's our top stitching right there. Get even a little bit closer. Look at this. I've got this thing stuck to the back of my hand now. Ah, let me move that to the side. The dangers of working with cork, no doubt, right? All right, let me try that again. There we go. So this again is 2 layers of cork, probably about almost 3 millimeters thick. It's thick stuff. Turn that light on, see if that helps a little bit. Nope, that totally blacks it out. Turn that light back off. And I'm trying to look over my shoulder at the screen to see if I've got it lined up right. So yeah, lovely, lovely stitching. And you see the thickness again of what we went through. It's not a thin sew off, folks. 2 layers of cork, probably about 3 millimeters thick. You're talking about if you were to put in the equivalent of leather ounces, probably almost 8 ounces of leather thickness. This is our lock stitch, and we maintain good stitch integrity there as well. So if you've never tried sewing cork before, be courageous. Go to your Dollar Tree or go to your local craft place, buy a sheet of cork material and try making something out of it. Try making something out of it. Yeah. Beautiful stuff. Cool. All right. I got to keep moving. Got to keep moving here. Keep moving, keep moving. What should we sew next? And we might not have enough time to do all of these sew-offs, obviously. I think what I'd like to demonstrate for the benefit of the customer is 100% cotton, because I know that she's going to be sewing a bunch of cotton. So why don't I get on this large piece of cotton and we'll go down through a wide range of stitch options, a wide range. And then we'll move on to some of the other specialty materials if you want to help pick some of those. All right, let's try this out. I'm going to get really close here. And I'm sorry for the wavering on the screen. I can't control that. Again, that's an LED light that's goofing around with the camera. See, if I shut it off, all of a sudden it starts to clear up. See that? So if I could run the machine, but I can't because it's powered, you got to have the light on. Ah, bummer. All right, let's back this up a little bit again. A little bit more. And I'll move in closer again. Long distance sewing. All right. So we'll lay down a real wide zigzag to start. And then I'll lay down a little bit narrow one and we'll kind of just tighten it up as we go. So maybe from an angle, maybe that'll work. Yeah, that'll work from an angle a little bit. All right, let's give this a go. Here we go. Zigzag to start. What did I do? Something goofy just happened. Oh, I've got something stuck on the needle from that cork material. And that's the only thing about cork is it's one of those commodities where I might have to change this needle out real quick. Might have to change this needle out real quick. Let me try stitching it one more time, but I think I might have a barb on that needle. So cork looks all soft and lovey, right? But it can like any material cause damage to your needle. And I think that's what we did. I'm going to try it one more time, but I think we have a damaged needle. And the way you can tell that usually is you'll run your fingernail down around the point and near the scarf area, and you can feel a little bit of a barb on there. Let's see what we get. See if we get the same result a second time. If we do, I've got to do a quick change on the needle. So there was a little piece of cork that was stuck right on the needle, and it was impairing the machine and being able to sew. We're going to try to finish off this live stream with this needle. We got a great result the second time, but there's the dangers of working with certain materials. It can compromise the integrity of your needle, and all of a sudden your machine will start doing some crazy things. We were missing stitches, and it was just all crazy where the stitching process had been interrupted by a little piece of cork, probably with a little bit of that adhesive. As that needle passed through, part of that adhesive grabbed the needle, and it was causing that thread to not work through the hook system properly. Just shows you the possibilities of things going south, and then you have to diagnose what's going on, what changed, why is it all of a sudden not sewing properly. Yeah. All right, let's lay down another zigzag now. Hopefully with that stuff off the needle, we're good to go now. Yep, we're back on track. So let that be a great lesson. I love when things sometimes go wrong. Not all the time. I love when things sometimes go wrong on these live streams, because then we can look at the process together, because it's very possible that after watching a live stream like this, folks are going to go out and pick up some cork, and then all of a sudden their machine will not be stitching properly. And they're like, oh my gosh, what did I break? And it could be as simple as some of that cork has stuck to the needle and it's disrupting the stitching process. There was just a little piece stuck right around midway that I kind of scraped off of the needle, and all of a sudden the machine is once again happy. All right, let's zip through these. I'm running out of time. I'm running out of time, and my customer will be here soon, so we got to get through more of these. All right, let's lay down another zigzag now. Actually, we'll lay down a straight stitch. We've done 2 zigzags already. Lay down a straight stitch now. Beautiful straight stitching. Look at that. This is what we've done so far. Lovely, lovely, lovely stitching. Hopefully you can see that even with the camera wavering. But that is not what we got the first time after sewing that cork material. We transitioned from that cork material to this cotton. Again, this is from a fat quarter, 100% cotton. And all of a sudden it looked like the timing had gone completely off on the machine, because we had like a stitch here, then it was interrupted, then there was no stitching. And so, yeah, wow. The power of cork, who knew? I think Sonny knew the power of cork, because Sonny knew about the bags that people are making with cork. So if you're making bags with cork, you're probably having to go through a fair number of needles. All right, now let's take that stitch length way down to about 20 stitches per inch. We'll lay down a stitch right next to that. I'm going to shorten that puppy up quite a bit. All right, here we go. Oh yeah, there's a fun contrast. Look at that. That is a fun contrast. And you can see, let me shut that light off. Let me bring that up. It's a little bit hard to see still. You can see the quality. Let me cut that thread. You can see the quality of stitching that, and there I did it again. See, I always do that. I allow that material to move and then I stitch over it. So I'm going through 3 layers of cotton instead of 2. Yeah, I'll pull that apart once I get done with it. So beautiful stitching on the part of this Kenmore. Everything from the zigzagging that we just did to the straight stitching. Nice contrast between the stitch length on that. Really highlights the beauty of the stitching of this machine. Almost feel like I want to put this in the front. Let's try that instead. I think it'll give me a little bit better angle, more control. So if you've had a bias against Japanese machines or machines made in Taiwan, or Thailand rather, hopefully this will change your thinking a little bit. This machine has done an excellent job of sewing a growing wide field of sew-offs and has managed them very, very nicely. That's our top stitch right there again. Then our lock stitch, we'll turn that over and look at that. And again, forgive the fact that I decided, you know what, I'm going to sew through three layers of cotton instead of two. I don't know if you've ever had that happen where you're not really paying attention and that piece will fold under and you end up sewing through. Yeah, you know what I mean. Oh, anyway. So some beautiful stitching by this Kenmore from the 1970s. I'm going to throw this to the back as well. And we'll probably have time to do just a few more sew-offs because I do want to transition over to the other workbench and try to apply this new belt system to this industrial machine and put that to work as well. So real quick, I'll show you some of the other options we have for materials that I prepared for this live stream. And then you can choose what we're going to do. Probably have like time to do one or two more sew-offs, maybe three. So we've got 100% denim. We've got acrylic fiber used for awnings. Nasty stuff, nasty stuff. Commercial upholstery material. Compressed felt. Saddle grade leather. Genuine elk hide. And then finally, we have this vegetable tan leather, this veg leather. So what do you guys think? Pick out three more sew-off options. We'll finish them up on Carmen's machine, and then we'll move over to the other workbench before Carmen and her husband arrive, and we'll see if I can get this commercial machine, this Eagle machine that also came from Southeast Asia, like this Kenmore, and we'll see if we can put it to use and get that machine ready for Cindy to pick up. So what do you guys think? Awning material. Oh, and welcome to 60 Shell. Welcome to 60 Shell. I'm sure that the moderators have already greeted 60 Shell, but I haven't seen that name before, so it's great to have you here. All right, so I'm seeing awning material. That's the only choice I'm seeing. So I'm going to grab the awning material. Where is it? There it is. We'll grab the awning material, and then I think I'll also go down, do a little bit of leather sewing. Do a little bit of leather sewing, maybe with this genuine elk hide. And then we'll finish up on this machine and move over to the other workbench. Yeah, that's the only way we can escape that light wavering is by moving all the way over here. So we'll do 2 layers of this awning material. And acrylic fiber, if you want to look it up, it's incredibly strong stuff. I believe that it's used in other applications as well, but the application that I know is for awning use. And if you know anything about awnings, they're out in freezing cold weather, extreme heat, they're stretched over frames, they're beat up by the wind, and yet that material continues to survive. It gives you an idea of the strength and the vitality of this acrylic fiber material. So I'm going to fold it in half, and we're going to go through 2 layers of this. I can tell you on other machines, when I've tried to go through 2 layers of this acrylic fiber, it's the equivalent of sewing through a thick layer of leather, just because of how it's put together almost like with a Kevlar style to make that strength factor. So we're going to try to go through 2 layers of this, and I'll probably lay down a straight and a zigzag on it. You know, I'll probably go with a zigzag. Let me tell you why I'll go with a zigzag, because this is such a busy material. If you look at the design of it, it's such a busy material. It's going to be a lot easier to see the stitching if we have a zigzag than if we have a straight stitch. It's going to kind of blend in. So So I think we'll go zigzag on this. We'll go different length zigzags, maybe different widths. All right, we'll go with a stitch width of 3 and a stitch length of about 8. So you can see how I've set the machine up here. I moved our stitch width over to 3. I moved our stitch length to 8. And that's what we're going to try to deliver first on this acrylic fiber. I might also see if I can keep it a little bit more even. I might try to throw a clip on there as well near the top to try to hold that together. Okay, let's give this a go, see how we do. Acrylic fiber always makes me a little bit nervous, All right, here we go. And I didn't have any reason to be nervous. That's a lovely, lovely stitch. Wait until you see it. I'll kind of turn it to the camera a little bit. You're able to see that stitch quality there. And again, whenever you incorporate needle swing, it may throw that tension off just a little bit because you're expanding the space that thread has to be stretched in between stitch points. And so it might require a little bit of a bump up on tension. We'll see how it looks when we flip to the other side. And there's our zigzag lock stitch on the back. I would say all in all, we maintained stitch tension very, very nicely, even with a wider zigzag stitch on this. Even with a wider zigzag stitch, I think we maintained some very, very good looking stitch integrity. And also notice the consistency as well. The spacing. We're not dealing with a vinyl material anymore like that naugahyde stuff that will tend to manipulate the stitch integrity and the stitch spacing. Here we've got this acrylic fiber, and it's able to really, really deliver a very consistent, lovely zigzag stitch, both for the lock stitch and then also for the top stitch as well. So beautiful stitching. We'll stitch down it one more time and modify that zigzag a little bit more. So yeah, if you've never tried acrylic fiber, I've offered this before. I don't have a ton of it, but if you want to try sewing this acrylic fiber so that you have bragging rights in your sewing group and say, hey, I sewed awning material on my Kenmore or on my Singer, let me know. I'll mail you a sample of this stuff and you can put it to work, see what you think. All right, let me back this up again so we can get rid of that wavering on the screen, hopefully. All right, let's lay down another zigzag and then we'll move on to this genuine elk hide. Let's see how I want to modify it. So what I changed now is I changed the stitch width. I moved it down to 2. And again, we've got a full range of 1 to 4. So we're right around the middle on stitch width. And then I moved the stitch length all the way down to 10. So we should get a fairly tight, almost a mending looking stitch in the zigzag now on this acrylic fiber. We'll see how this machine can handle this. Again, not an easy material to get through, not easy at all. All right, here we go. Beautiful stitching. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Yeah, if you look at the way this material presents, you can see why I'm going with a zigzag and trying to, instead of trying to straight stitch it, because of the visibility of the stitch. Just so much easier to see, isn't it? So let me see. Okay, so this is our top stitch. I'll try to orientate it correctly. This is our top stitch. Again, 2 layers of acrylic fiber used for making awnings. And I think all in all, this Kenmore did an excellent job. seeing if I want to turn that light on. I've got a light on this camera too, and sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. I don't think it's in focus yet. Let me shut that light off. Maybe it's having trouble focusing on it. You know what I'll do? I'll be smart, and I'll just set it in front of the machine. That'll be a lot less work for me, and it'll give you a better perspective of the stitching too. There we go. So again, if you want a free sample of this acrylic fiber, just contact me. I'll mail it to you. Unless you live in Malaysia, then I might have to get your help on covering the shipping. So some beautiful zigzagging. Let's look at that lock stitch on the back. Through 2 layers of awning material. 2 layers of awning material. Beautiful, beautiful stitching. Wow. Wow. Lovely stitching. And again, the only thing is I'm looking at this very critically. The only thing I might adjust just slightly is I might turn that upper tension up just a little bit if I were sewing a ton of this to define that lock stitch even more. Right now, it's a nice looking lock stitch, but we could make it even better by bumping up that upper tension. Again, if you're brand new to sewing, or if no one's ever explained this before, the upper tension defines your lock stitch on the bottom. Your bobbin case below defines the stitch on top, the top stitch. And so they're constantly pulling back and forth against each other. The upper tension is pulling up, the bobbin case is pulling down, and it's finding that sweet balance between the two that gives you a beautiful lock stitch like this, and also gives you a lovely top stitch like this. And again, whenever you're dealing with a stitch that has needle swing, you might have to tweak that tension a little bit to get that good balance. Yeah. All right, let's throw that acrylic fiber to the side. We're going to do some elk hide now, and then we will consider the deal done on this 1970s Kenmore that was made in Japan and made in, I totally blanked, Thailand, or yeah, something like that. It's Southeast Asia. It's from that neck of the woods. All right. So now we have 100% elk hide. If you look at it from the side, anything but a light sew off. I'll get even closer so you can look at it. We're basically going to be sewing through the equivalent of a belt. A lot of belts that men and women wear that are heavier duty are going to be about this thickness. So again, whether we believe the motor that was made in Japan and is labeled 0.95 amps, or whether we believe the nomenclature on the back that is from Thailand and it says 1 amp, we're only talking about 0.5 of an amp difference. And this machine has a lot of power. So whether 0.95 like the motor says or 1.0 like the back nomenclature plate says, we should be able to go through this very, very heavy duty elk hide without any difficulty. And we'll try laying down a zigzag and laying down a straight stitch. I'll do a straight stitch first. So all I did again, if you're learning your machine a little bit, is move your stitch length all the way down to 0, which is this little orange dot. That'll get you into this straight stitching mode. And then you can decide what your stitch length is going to be. I like going long oftentimes, so I'll go somewhere between 6 and 8, probably do it right around 7, right around there. And then again, I'm just going to double check my presser foot pressure because I'm sewing through a heavy leather now. And I need to make sure I have enough presser foot pressure. I'm probably going to go even higher than I am now. And I'm almost at max. So I'm going to push it down a little bit further and bump that up even a little bit higher. So again, just remember that if you're having feed factors, it's either the adjustment of your feed dogs are dull. It could be your presser foot pressure as well. Yeah. a variety of things. All right, let me back the camera up because of that silly LED light. LED lights are great unless you're shooting video. Oh, and welcome to Cindy as well. Welcome to Cynthia. Welcome to Cynthia to the live stream. All right, and I'm going to try to do a fairly wide zigzag on this leather after I do this straight stitch. We'll see what we get. See what we get. All right, here we go. And if you hear a little sound up top, that's just the bobbin, or not the bobbin, excuse me. That's the spool of thread kind of wobbling a little bit. These have like a metal screw in and they can loosen over time. If this were my machine, I would put a little bit of that blue thread lock on these because it fits in the case with these spool pins on here, and I would lock them in place final and you know, so they wouldn't be loosening anymore. If you're wondering what the thread lock looks like, this is the kind of thread lock you want to use if you're wanting to keep something from coming loose when it's vibrating, but you don't want it to be absolutely final. This is by Permatex, or Permatex, excuse me. This is by Permatex, and the thread locker blue is to keep bolts and other things from coming loose through vibration. But at the same time, if you heat it up, you can loosen that spool pin again. Let's say, God forbid, it breaks off and you need to get that end out. You can get it out by heating it. If you use the red stuff, if you use the red thread locker, that is absolutely permanent. I mean, you have to heat it up to a crazy level, and then you might still have trouble getting it out. So this is what I would recommend if you've got spool pins or other areas of the machine that you're generally not going to have to take that out, and it tends to loosen up because of vibration. Maybe even this thumb screw right here that holds the presser foot attachment on. You can use the blue stuff if you're going to be using that presser foot the majority of the time, if not exclusively, and it's not going to come loose on you. So just got a little piece of metal on my finger. Ouch. Okay. There's our straight stitching. Give you an initial glimpse of this. That's a straight stitching we just laid down, again, through probably about 6 to 8 ounces of genuine elk hide. Here, I'm going to put it in front of the machine again. That's silly. I keep trying to hold it up to the camera, and it's like, yeah, you can't see much there. All right. Try to balance it there. All right. Shut the light off on the machine. Still getting a little bit of a light reflection. That's weird. Well, you can see the stitching even amid the wavering. There we go. Now it's cleaning up. So a very, very good looking straight stitch through this 100% elk hide. I'm going to turn it over and just look at that lock stitch again. Again, a lock stitch is always going to be a little bit more of a challenge to generate because it's having to pull that thread back up through that thick layer of elk hide and tighten that stitch up for definition. So lock stitch is always going to be more challenging. And I would say that that is pretty close to a page 34. I might tighten it up a little bit more by bumping up that upper tension. But all in all, that's a very, very lovely looking straight stitch. And now we're going to try to lay down a zigzag next to it. let's do that. Let's lay down a zigzag next to this now, and then we'll consider this machine wrapped up, because my customer is going to be here in about 15 minutes, and if I know this generation, they're probably going to arrive early, so possible. All right, so let's do a zigzag on this now. I'll probably go like around 2.5 to 3 on stitch width. Move it up just below 3, and then we're going to take our stitch length to right around 8. Should give us a fairly good balance between the two. Okay, so again, we're sewing 100% elk hide. It's the thickness of a man or a woman's heavy-duty belt, probably about 6 to 8 ounces of leather. We're going to lay down a zigzag next to this straight stitch now. The straight stitch came out lovely, very, very nice. And now we're going to try the zigzag. All right, here we go. Yeah, I like it. Me likes. I'll shut my light off because that'll mess up the camera. Take an initial look at this stitching that we just laid down. That's our zigzag, our straight stitch line right next to it. Really quite lovely, quite lovely. And again, when it comes to sewing a material, as you put that needle more and more to use, it's going to start to cause a little bit of a degradation of that needle. So just be aware of that as you're sewing materials, whether it's that cork material that really threw us for a loop for a little bit, or acrylic fiber or elk hide like this. Make sure you keep a fresh needle in the machine. I'll probably change out the needle for Carmen before she walks the machine today. All right. So I'll be smart this time. I'll lean it up against the machine. We'll look at that top stitch first. And again, about 6 ounces of leather is what we just went through. No hand start, no hesitation on the part of this machine whatsoever. So if you have a Japanese clone machine like this, and someone has told you you can't sew leather with it, all evidence to the contrary. And our lock stitch. And again, lock stitching, you might have to, with a heavier material like this, you might have to bump up that upper tension just a little bit. Lovely, lovely stitching. Yeah, so all in all, I'm very pleased with the sew-offs that we did on this machine. We could have done so much more. We could have done the denim or the compressed felt. We could have done the veg tan leather. Could have done the saddle grade leather as well that I had prepared for the machine. But I think we need to wrap it up at this point and be satisfied in putting this this particular model from the 1970s, model 1231, 1231. So yeah, this model 1231, I think, has done an excellent job going through everything from this nasty naugahyde stuff. You can kind of see what that stuff does, to this genuine elk hide that we just sewed, this acrylic fiber that we sewed as well, this cork material, which almost blew us out of the water by some of the adhesive that's part of the backing getting caught on our needle and disrupting our stitching process. I'll also pull the hook apart real quick and make sure none of that adhesive got down into the hook system. I think we're good, but I'll check it before Carmen walks away with it. And then finally, this 100% cotton, where we just did a wide variety of stitching on it as well. So I think we've done a good little mini sewing Olympics on this. And this machine has proven its worth. I really think it has. So why don't we go over to the other workbench? I'm going to see if I can do a real quick stitch off on this commercial grade Eagle machine, and then we'll wrap this live stream up. Got to move my little rack and everything. And what I ended up coming up with is, like I said on the last live stream where I tried to present this Eagle machine that's going to be going back to Iron Mountain, Michigan. Cindy had a death in the family and couldn't come this week, so she's coming first thing next week. And I was using some of my old rubber stretch belts. I broke 3 of them. And then after closer examination of the belts, and this is where noticing the details when you're a sewist is so important, whether it's a sticky little piece of cork that's gotten onto your needle and is disrupting the sewing process, and by just cleaning that off, picking that little piece off of there, all of a sudden your machine resumes sewing beautifully again. Or whether it's noticing that your thread is caught and it's not feeding properly, or a belt that's dry rotted. The belts look great, but after I continued to bend them, it was apparent that they had gotten to a point where they were brittle. So these are new belts that I put together. I used a splicer to make my own belt. This is basically used in an automotive application for air hoses and other things like that on a car. And then I used a little splicer and I super glued the splicer in place. And now we're going to try using this new belt that's not dry rotted. Hopefully it works. Off camera it worked, but you know what? As soon as the camera starts rolling, things can go sideways pretty quick. So let's give it a try before Carmen and her husband show up, see what we can get done. And this again would normally be driven either by a large clutch motor or be driven by a servo motor that's going to be about 6 to 10 times stronger than the setup that I have. The setup I have right now, you can see, is I've got this belt that I made running off of a Swedish 1.5 amp motor. So we have about 1/10 the power that we might have driving this machine. That's a little bit of a challenge. But even with that in mind, I've got these extra weights on here, a 10-pound weight here, 30 pounds of weight here to weigh this base down. Normally there'd be a Swedish Beauty mounted to the top of this, over the top of this motor. Right now I've just got the base, so we can use it in this application. And then I've got Umi over here, also from the area that this machine was made, in Southeast Asia. She's supporting the thread feed coming off the top. And then I've got this extra little thread feed here, because this upholstery thread that's sitting on top of this 99K, it tends to unspindle and it gets stuck underneath here. That's what happened in the last live stream as well. So I'm really gonna have to watch that so it feeds properly. So coming from here to here to here, and then threading across the top, coming through what looks like a spool pin, but it's actually a thread guide, coming in the back, coming around the corner. We got it there. Then we have come through here. And again, the FOF machines and a number of other machines also have this 3-point thread guide, even a 4-point thread guide. The more of these eyelets that you go through, the more upper tension it's going to give that machine to maintain a lock stitch when you're going through heavier materials. And then finally, we come around the main tension here, comes through a secondary tension, comes through the take-up spring, thread guide, take-up arm, thread guide, down to the needle finally. And the needle we're running is what Sonny would call a harpoon needle. It's a 135 by 17 needle. And the weighting on it is a 110/18. So it's a size 18, but the girth of the needle is significantly larger than that, significantly larger. And then we're threading this needle from left to right as we come through the needle. So, and the other thing I pointed out in the other live stream is this really doesn't depend as much on the feed dogs for feed as it does this dual walking foot. The walking foot in the middle is controlled with separate presser foot pressure, as is the outside one as well. So we've got presser foot pressure that controls the outside feed prongs, and then the feed dog in the middle as well. And those are adjusted right through here. There's one that's adjusted here and one that's adjusted right there on top. So a lot of stuff on these commercial machines, and I don't see them very often either. I don't see them very often. And these are some of the stitch offs I've already done on the machine through canvas. That's the main material that this customer is going to be sewing. And I do have a contrasting thread just to show that there's only a pinpoint. You can barely see that contrasting thread, which means the stitch balance is absolutely spot on. Okay, so all that blah, 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 let's give this a go. I hope it works this time. I really battled this the last time. And I hope we don't have a battle again. So I'm not going to go crazy with this. I'm going to do 2 layers of canvas, which really isn't a challenge for this machine at all. It could do probably 6 times that amount. But again, we're dealing with a modified motor setup with a belt that is a lot stronger than the last 3 I broke, but it still could have a possibility of breaking. So I'm gonna play it cautious. So hopefully I can end in success instead of failure like the last time. All right, so I've got the presser foot down. I'm gonna put a couple clips on here to try to keep this relatively straight and even, I hope. And again, the fun thing about showing a machine like this is that it was made in Eagle commercial machines are made in Malaysia, Southeast Asia, right near Thailand, where Carmen's machine would have been made as well. So that's kind of cool. All right, put a couple more clips on here and see if this helps our cause. All right, I'm going to try to get real close to that walking foot. I should say dual walking foot, so you can see how this works. It really relies a lot more on this than it does on the feed dog feed. So, all right, keep your fingers crossed. Keep your fingers crossed. Hopefully we have success this time. And I'm just going to try to run down this material, and then I'll be satisfied that it works. Well, works off camera great, but you never know, right? And again, what I'm having to do is with this Husqvarna foot controller, because with the motor mounted in the rear with this long belt, I can't get this all the way to the floor. I've got to put it between my knees and push my knees together to control the foot controller, or control the foot controller. That's what I meant to say. Instead of being able to press it with my foot. So a little bit of gymnastics, a little bit of circus work here. All right, here we go. Keep your fingers crossed. Let's get down this material and consider this machine good to go. All right, here we go. Ha ha! See that? Ha ha ha! Woo! Who says a Husqvarna 1.5 amp motor can't drive a large industrial machine like this? Great job, Umi. Thanks for holding the thread up. And again, this particular machine does not have a pin release on this upper tension. In other words, when you raise the presser foot lever in the back, there's not a pin that releases the tension on these discs. It doesn't release it. So you have to draw it out and rock the balance wheel to get this thread to advance. You got to rock it. So that's kind of what I'm going to do now to try to get this to free up and to come out. Oh, that was fun. That was fun. After any of you that caught a glimpse of that other live stream and were like, oh my gosh, I feel so sorry for Scott. That machine is just giving him a crazy challenge. Just seeing that little victory there, that's big stuff. And what beautiful stitching this Eagle commercial machine is doing now. Let me show you. See if we can come across here, and I'll lean it against the machine a little bit and show you this stitching. Beautiful stitching. That's our top stitch, obviously. Now let's flip it over and look at that lock stitch, which is going to have that black bobbin thread that's in the machine right now. So both of these machines that you had a chance to see today, Carmen's Kenmore, made or assembled in Thailand, and this machine as well coming from Malaysia, which is right adjacent to Thailand as well. And I'm not a geographical wizard, not even a stretch of the imagination of that. But beautiful, beautiful stitching. Beautiful stitching. Wow. Wow. So I redeemed myself after that last debacle with this silly machine giving me so many challenges. Uh, and I did make a couple of adjustments on it as well. My good friend Ken, who does work similar to my work, not quite to the extent in the restorative side, more on the maintenance side, had done some of the work on this machine for me. And he's a very, very gifted, competent technician. Been doing it longer than I have. But they always say, if you want to get the job done, do it yourself. And that's no knock against Ken. It's just that after a long day, all of us can make a mistake or overlook something. And then all of a sudden you go on camera and you're expecting success and you have failure. I went through the machine again myself after having that challenge in the last live stream. And now we laid down just a beautiful stitch line through these 2 layers of canvas. Again, not even a challenge for this machine, but with our setup of this makeshift belt that I made and this little Swedish motor in relation to this size of a machine, we had some great success. So I'm really pleased with that. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Sonny's so cute. Eye protection. Yeah, I could really test this commercial machine and try sewing that nasty cork. See if we could kill this machine almost too. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. What are you gonna do? Yeah, beautiful stitch off. Beautiful stitch off. Just a lovely line of stitching. Isn't that gorgeous? And this is this type of material that Cindy and her son uh, Justin are going to be sewing. They make canvas covers for boats and everything, and they're going to be sewing a lot of canvas and with a proper motor attached to this eagle now that it's running tip top, it's going to be able to go through. Like I said, this is only 2 layers, 6, 8, 10 layers of canvas. Yeah, easily, no problem. I just got to sew a little bit of saddle grade leather for fun. I hope I don't shoot myself in the foot here. My thread is free and running. Yay. Try one more sew off since I've got a few minutes. I don't see the customers here yet, so we're going to take advantage of this. See if it can get through this leather too. And this is not a leather needle in here. It's not even a universal needle, so I really shouldn't be doing this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah, I'm going to move it over a little bit though. All right, saddle grade leather. We'll try this just for fun. Again, not a leather needle. This needle is really more for nylon and for vinyl type materials. So we'll see how it does. All right, keep your fingers crossed a second time. Can we do it twice in a row? Can we have success with a machine that crashed and burned the last time? I almost feel inspired to ring the bell. All right, here we go. Let's hope. Get my take-up arm up. All right, let's try this again. Last sew off on this commercial machine. Hopefully, we have success against leather, even though the needle isn't designed for it. Let's see what happens. Here we go. That was a little bit harder for the machine, wasn't it? That was a little bit harder. It was like, I don't know if I like this. All right, now we're going to rock this. Kind of see what's happening to that take-up spring. Let me change the camera angle. Watch what's happening to the take-up spring as I'm rocking this to advance the thread. Again, there's no pin release in here, so you have to kind of wiggle it and jiggle it to get that thread to advance. It's a little bit awkward, but oh well. You got to work with it the way it is. Oops, I almost knocked Numi over. So here is our sew off on leather. And yes, I'll replace this needle before Cindy picks it up. So just kind of beat it up a little bit. Here is our leather sew off now, which is also gorgeous. Look at this. So you can see the extent that I go. I mean, you look at these weights in the back and everything else that I had to come up with. Um, I really want these machines to be tested before they leave the workshop, even when I don't have the ideal setup options for the machine. We can still put it through the paces, can't we? Lovely, lovely stitching. Let's see how we did on the lock stitch. A little bit harder to see with that black thread. I'm not a fan of black thread. You guys know that. But there's our black thread as well. And you notice you can't see any of the top thread coming through. So even on this leather, it maintained the tension balance very nicely. Yeah, I'm not a fan of black thread. It just doesn't give that stitch pop like I like to see, you know? Yeah, I think Sonny's right. I think Sonny's absolutely right. When you're doing, when you're doing buzz straight, straight stitching and you're just blowing through the material, you probably don't have to cut the thread a lot, do you? You just kind of wheel the material around, maybe rotate that needle down and just buzz through it. But when you're making boat covers, I'm guessing there are some stop and start points. I've never made a boat cover. I don't know if anyone in the audience has ever made a boat cover, but you've got all those seams and you've got multiple layers, certain parts that are thicker than others, and you got to take it a little bit slower. And at any rate, I'm really pleased. We were able to present two machines today. This Eagle that was made in Malaysia, Southeast Asia, Thailand area, blah, blah, blah. I'm not a geography person, you know that. But we were able to put this to the test and run some great sew-offs with canvas and with leather as well. So this is all set for Cindy and her son Justin to pick up. And then we also had fun over here as well with Carmen's machine, being able to put this Kenmore through the paces also and learn new things about working with different materials that can create issues for us, didn't we? Even though we dealt with this cork material, we had the sticky side on the inside. You kind of see the shininess of it there. We had the sticky side facing in because we initially tried sewing this, and there's just no way we could feed this with a sticky back, right? Just it wouldn't work, not over these feed dogs. But we still had a little bit of that stickiness get caught on our needle and throw off our stitch capabilities dramatically. But we got back on track, and very happy machine and very happy machine. So that's it, guys. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. God bless you. Thank you to the moderating team for making everyone feel welcome. Thank you to all the folks that stepped out of the shadows and joined the live chat, introduced themselves, maybe even shared where you were from. We always love to learn where folks are from. We have people from around the world that join these live streams because they love these machines. The quasi vintage ones from the 1970s, and certainly great machines like this Eagle as well in the commercial light industrial realm. So yeah, that's it. So what do you think? Did we cover it? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think we did. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. And stay tuned for more fun. Fun, fun, fun. It's all about fun. It's like we're in a prison or something here. Put on some prison breaking music. Woo, yeah. That's definitely going to get you out of prison. That was it? That's all we got for a dime? What? Come on, give me some more. Okay, that's not quite prison breaking, but it's good music. All right. And there all of you are. Look at that. All of you famous people like that. Yay! Cool. This is good that that guy's jamming on. I might change it though. I want something a little more peppy. How about that? Oh yeah. Ah, that one. Ah, no. That one. Ooh. How about this one? Ah, no. That one. Yeah. There's one. That definitely feels like Japanese music, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. Oh yeah. I'm gonna change that needle for a. Yeah, the needle feels good, but I'm gonna change it out anyway, just in case. That cork material is surprisingly treacherous material to sew, isn't it? Yeah, it is. What I'm taking is a little bit of machine oil with a little bit of rubbing alcohol to go on the inside of that hook system. Just make sure none of that stickiness got stuck in there from that cork that we sewed. We don't want any of that residue from the cork to cause issues for Carmen. And then what I'll do is I'll take the other swab and just put regular machine oil to lubricate that hook again. I want to periodically lubricate your hook on your machine about every 6 hours or so. So this is purely machine oil with just a little dab of kerosene in it. I use kerosene because it's a rust inhibitor, and a number of the Japanese machines post-World War II were made from sunken Navy vessels, the metal parts, and they have a tendency to develop rust more readily. If you look at the Facebook shots of this machine, you'll see what I mean. And so this kerosene inhibits that rust, especially from getting into the raceway area. This is the magic center. This is the brain center where all the stitching is created. So we have to make sure that that stays nice and clean and nothing contaminated gets in there, including cork sticky stuff. Blah. There we go. And see, even as clean as this machine is, and as much as I've taken it through, look at the junk that gets in there so quickly. Yeah, there we go. Makes me more confident that Carmen won't have any issues. All right, I'm going to end the live stream. Y'all take care. Thanks for hanging in there. And have a great Wednesday wherever you are. If you're watching this afterwards, make sure you check out the live chat. We've got so many fascinating, brilliant people that join these live chats and contribute so much great information and insights to make us all better. You'll want to read their comments. I'm so thankful for each and every one of them because this is a classroom where we learn together. It's not one person presenting and you have to sit back and be quiet. You jump in, you share what you know, we learn from each other. Yeah, that's the way it should be. Yep. All right. Take care, everybody. God bless you. And again, the live chat's going to be active for a little bit after I end the live stream. So if you want to chat somebody or type something or whatever, have at it. I'm hoping YouTube will eventually do what I've asked them to do. Not that I'm a huge influence in the YouTube family or anything like that, but maybe a little. And they will give folks that are in the live chat the option to post pictures. Wouldn't that be great? I think it'd be great. So let's hope for that in the future. Oh, wow. Wow, wow, wow. Hello to our friend that just joined us from Vietnam. Just joined us from Vietnam. Yeah. Vietnam is Southeast Asia too, isn't it? Pretty sure. Yeah. So, all right, you have a great Wednesday, everybody. And thanks for all your support and your encouragement. God bless. I'll leave the live stream running just for a few more seconds because I know that Emma's engaging our friend right now from Vietnam, and that way I don't know how long it takes to time out once I end the live stream. I think Emma said it times out quicker than I thought, so I'm going to leave it running. We'll put on a little bit more beautiful Asian style music and let those conversations wrap up, and then I'll end the live stream. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Oh, I love this music. Oh, I love this music. And you know what? To be extra safe, I'll just show you guys real quick. Obviously, since the needle passes down into the bobbin to catch the thread, I'm also going to clean the inside of the bobbin real quick, the bobbin case as well, real quick, just to make sure none of that residue got in there. And when you clean your bobbin case, I'll just show you real quick. When you clean your bobbin case, the obvious is to swab here where the bobbin is spinning, right? Everyone generally cleans that. But they generally don't clean around here where the bobbin is spinning up. The bobbin actually mounts on here. You want to clean that. And then where the point from the machine joins up with it in here, you also want to clean that as well. And you clean it with, a machine oil, kerosene, something like that, that's going to lubricate it and also strip stuff off. And look at what we got off, even though the machine was fully prepped. You can see that. It gets dirty real quick. It's dirty real quick. And again, when we put the bobbin back in, we want to make sure that it's turning counterclockwise in this Japanese, Southeast Asia, Taiwanese machine, blah, blah, blah. I can't even keep track. So when we slide it in, we're going to be putting it in with a thread coming underneath. See that? Slide it in, get it into that track. Make sure you draw it all the way underneath that tension spring so it pops into place. There we go. Verify the direction. It's turning counterclockwise. Good to go. Pop her back in. When you pop her in, make sure the thread is on the left side of the finger, not the right side, or it can kind of get caught in there. Put her on the left side and then snap her back in. Draw that thread up, and we're ready to resume sewing again. That just pops up so nicely, doesn't it? Yeah. And with that, I got done just in time. Again, thank you to all that attended the live stream today. Thank you to all that watch this later. And I'm ready for Carmen to show up. Yeah. There we go. Take care, everybody. God bless.